Hey everybody, it's Charlie. We need to talk about those Spider-Man post-credits. Hopefully you all had patience. Maybe it didn't seem like it was worth it. So there was some big setups for the next couple of movies. There's so much to unpack, and there is a new round of that Spider-Man ticket giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber, leave a comment on this video. So there's two post-credit scenes. The second one is the funnier one. The first one is more of the setup for future Spider-Man films. So after the last credits roll, Captain America comes on and goes, "Hello, I'm Captain America, here to talk to you about one of the most valuable traits a soldier or student can have, patience. Sometimes patience is the key to victory, sometimes it leads to very little, and it seems like it's not worth it. And you wonder why you waited so long for something so disappointing." And then he looks off camera and says, "How many more of these?" So basically, they're making fun of themselves. Captain America was used for all those infomercials during the movie. This was a continuation of that. Most of them did not make the actual movie. John Watts, the director, said that they would put them on the DVD. So there'll be a whole bunch of these funny PSAs, and they all look like they were shot around the original Avengers era. Like the government had them do the physical fitness challenge. So John Watts said when he was growing up, he had to do the President Kennedy fitness test. I actually had to do it myself too. So he thought it'd be funny if Captain America were used for that in the MCU. But when he says patience, obviously he's making fun of the idea of post-credit scenes, waiting for something so disappointing, like you expected something bigger than Captain America popping up on screen talking about patience. But the real hat tip, I think, is for the end of some of the Avengers runs. Like Kevin Feige's been teasing that the end of Phase 3 in both of these next Avengers films will be the end of the road for some of the big A-list characters. So when Captain America says, "How many more of these we got?" he's making fun of the idea of Marvel movies in the idea that he's going to continue being in Marvel movies. Like, how many more of these do I have? But don't worry, I do think that Chris Evans will sign a new contract and he'll just appear in other people's movies like Captain Marvel. They just confirmed that Nick Fury is going to appear during the Captain Marvel movie, which is sandwiched between the two Avengers films. The first post-credit scene is obviously the bigger one that sets up the next Spider-Man film. The Vulture gets put in a prison cell with Mark Gargan, one of the people from the ferry save that Spider-Man pulled off earlier in the movie with Iron Man's help. He was arrested and thrown in prison after that, so he's been in prison for most of the movie. And because they have a pre-existing relationship, he asks him, "Did you ever find out who was underneath that mask? Because I got some friends on the outside that would love to take him down." And after a brief pause, the Vulture says, "No, if I did, he'd be dead." So there are a bunch of big things going on in here. Mark Gargan, the person asking him that question, is the Scorpion from the comics, so his friends are very clearly going to become the Sinister Six that Spider-Man will fight in the next movie, which takes place after the fourth Avengers film. And also at the same time, it's a way to not completely demonize the Vulture. Like, he does have a code of honor that he lives by. He protects his family, and earlier in the movie, he said that he did not kill Spider-Man because he saved his daughter's life. That doesn't necessarily mean that the Vulture's going to be a good character in the next movie, but it does mean that the Scorpion will be a big core character. They'll introduce other Sinister Six characters. Yes, I do think that we'll see Green Goblin in the Spider-Man movies eventually. They only have 2 on the books with Marvel and Sony, but I think they'll re-sign the sharing contract and you'll see more Spider-Man films that they collab on after the second Homecoming film. But as for who the characters they introduce in that second movie, it could be Doc Ock, it could be Green Goblin. They could do the core characters, but I have a feeling that they'll go for the lesser ones first. We might find out more at Comic-Con, but Kevin Feige has said that a lot of the Phase 4 stuff is spoilery for Infinity War, so he won't announce a lot of that information until after we see Infinity War next year, which isn't even that far away. It's less than a year away. One of the other big things that people noticed during the film is that because the Stark Tower is being sold, people are wondering if Oscorp is going to buy it, and that will be the backdoor to Green Goblin. It's totally possible they left the door wide open on a bunch of plot points. They're not necessarily post-credit scenes, but you have the Iron Spider moment, you have Aunt May learning his identity. What the fuck? Like, as they cut the movie to black. But you never know if he's actually going to put that on in Infinity War. I don't think that they would tease it if they weren't eventually going to do it at some point. So I think you'll see some hardcore Iron Spider at least a little bit in one of the next Avengers films. But obviously he's going to be a junior in high school in the next film, and then after they re-sign their contract, he'll be a senior, they could do a third film, and then after that, who knows? Yes, Donald Glover's character is playing the Prowler, meaning that he has a nephew. Kevin Feige confirmed, yes, he does have a nephew, but he didn't say his nephew was Miles Morales, but he did say that Miles Morales existed in the MCU, so that's just him being coy about the idea of Miles being the nephew of this version of the Prowler. So if you saw that confirmation and were like, wait a minute, does that mean we'll see Miles Morales in a future movie? Yes, we'll eventually see him, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he'll appear in the second movie. It might be the third movie before we see him because he's so much younger than Peter, and Peter is only 15 right now, meaning that Miles would be years and years away from the spider bite. So it's going to be a long time before we ever see a Miles Morales version of Spider-Man in the MCU, but I do think we'll get there eventually. The last big thing, it's pretty big or not very big depending on how you look at it, but Zendaya's character is confirmed as MJ, but there's a big twist on it. So she's an original character to the movie. She's not someone from the comics. People thought she might have been Michelle Gonzalez because they kept saying her name was Michelle. But when she's elected captain of the science team, she says, "My friends call me MJ because her name is Michelle Jones." So she's not Michelle Gonzalez, and she's not Mary Jane Watson either. They're just giving the MJ name to an original character, and they'll call her MJ, and that'll be the MCU's version of MJ. But you could theorize that Mary Jane Watson also exists somewhere in there, but when they say they were trying to be different from previous Spider-Man films, they were not kidding. So let me know in the comments, what was your favorite post-credit scene? What did you think about the troll post-credit scene? I love the idea of them doing that, just because you'd never think that they would do it. Even though Guardians of the Galaxy had like 5 post-credit scenes, some of them were nonsense with the exception of Adam Warlock, which is a really huge deal. James Gunn said the idea is just to use them to do dumb shit, rather than the previous mission of Phase 1, Phase 2, to use the post-credits to overlap the films in a big way. The reasoning behind the change is that now the movies are so successful, they don't need to support each other in the same way. They don't need to overlap. They can be more self-contained, even though there's a lot of internal crossover when you have characters like Iron Man coming from Civil War. So there is a lot of crossover, but they don't need to use the connective tissue the same way they did in the first couple of phases, which is kind of disappointing because those were always lots of fun. Obviously, Spider-Man's post-credit scene is just meant to set up future Spider-Man specific storylines. It has nothing to do with Infinity War, although there's a lot of eye-winking in that Captain America post-credit scene, like, how many more movies do we got here? This isn't gonna last forever. Just taking all those shots at themselves. I always love it when Marvel isn't afraid to make fun of itself. Leave all your requests for bonus videos in the comments. I'm going to be doing some more comic book stuff tomorrow between Marvel and DC. We learn more about what's happening at Comic-Con. Fox is coming and doing a Marvel panel, so that means Deadpool footage, maybe some teasers for what's happening during New Mutants, which is coming out in the spring. Maybe they'll talk a little bit about Dark Phoenix, but they haven't started shooting that movie yet. Congratulations to the latest giveaway winner, Jackie Frost. Please private message me on the back end of my channel so I can get your contact details. You can click here for my first Easter egg video, and you can click here for brand new Flash Season 4. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.